Alright, g'day, hi and welcome. Okay, I'm just going to try to make a little quick video. This is for all my fellow Canuckians and biker Canuckians and just getting on the road in the early spring, the things to watch out for. Obviously, you got mud, you've got ice, you've got all kinds of stuff like that. Should you be brave enough to make it out of your driveway and lucky enough to, stupid enough or brave enough to make it out of your driveway and lucky enough to actually be successful at it, once you get on the road, just remember there's going to be a lot of frozen things. The road's going to be cold, even if there's no water or ice on it. There's a little skiff of sand on there. That stuff could spin you out so fast. Your tires are probably going to be all gunked up. So they might, like for example, you can see here, there's mud in there. It might take a kilometer or two or a mile or two before that stuff comes out of the tires. So just remember, you might not have the traction you think you have. Go at it easy. Obviously, you've been laid up all winter. In this case, this was a really long winter. It's April. I parked this bike in November. So November, December, January, February, March, April. 6 months ago, I last rode. That is just horrible. That is just the humanities. The humanities on that one. But you get the idea. So your chops are going to be a little bit rusty, meaning you're going to have to readjust to the bike again. I found I was a little all over the road today, and not like that, but not as precise as I was when I parked the bike, you know what I mean? Because you got to get those skills back, riding in different gear. I should have put my onesie on today, but I was just so excited I had to. I'm sorry I didn't get any GoPro footage. But yeah, anyway, I'll talk about that in a moment. But the other thing is that monitor your, especially the first run of the season, don't go too far. Don't go on a road trip right away. Monitor your engine temperature. You got old gas in there. Maybe, don't go too far. See how it runs. But also, even if you don't go far, run it at least a good half an hour. Because what happens when the bike sits all winter? This thing fired up like you never know what you're going to get the following spring. You can buy a brand new motorcycle, pull it out in the spring, put the battery in it, brand new battery in it, everything like that. Turn the key in it, you got nothing. And you just don't know, maybe a squirrel chewed a wire or just something stupid like that, or whatever it is, something corroded, whatever it might be. But the first run, check your tire pressure. Obviously start there. Check your oil. Obviously do that. If you have coolant, check your coolant. If things are a little low, that's probably okay, as long as they're not super low. Make sure your chain's well adjusted. Make sure your axles and your bolts and nuts. Just do a whole inspection of your bike. I always do what I call the pre-flight. Kick the tires, light the fires. I do this even during the summertime. Check your brakes, check your brake oils, check your whatever you got, check. Look for leaks, look for this, that. You might find the fork oil's a little bit stiff this time of year. You'll probably find the tires, you feel like you're riding on solid rubber, where it doesn't really, your tires kind of dance around the road because they're colder. They don't feel like you're getting the traction. Take your corners slower. If you think you're going the right speed, slow down just a little bit more. Give people behind you plenty of time to stop. Keep in mind, even though it's April 15th, anybody driving around here that still sees 2 feet of snow, in some areas, there's 4 feet there, there's 2 feet there. I'll show you some of the stuff back here. They're not expecting to see motorcycles on the road when they see this much snow. It's just a psychological thing. It doesn't matter if they ride themselves. They're just not expecting to see. You can see my van is up to the window. The other van's still covered. You get an idea. There's a lot of snow still left, so people are not expecting to see you. Drive like you're invisible. Ride like everybody's trying to kill you, because they can. Just the common sense stuff like that. Be easy with your speed. Check nuts and bolts. Check your fairing bolts. All these things, because they tend to come loose. Check your tires. Check your axles. If you're going to send it in to get a tune-up, hopefully you did this in January or February. But like most people know, what they do is they wait till the last minute. And then I'll tell you what the guy at the shop's going to tell you. Sure, we'll schedule you in, but you're probably not going to get in there till June, because everybody wants their bike on the road tomorrow morning. And tune-ups take time. They can only do so many bikes a day. I used to work in a bike shop, so I know people do that. The time to do that was in the wintertime when you were laid up. The best time to get your bike serviced for the spring is in the fall when you park it. Now, if you're doing the maintenance yourself, yeah, I didn't change my oil when I parked it. The oil was changed when I bought the bike. 6,000 kilometers later, yeah, it's probably time to change it. That's about the interval anyway. Maybe a little over, but last year I didn't bother. I'll do it probably in about a week or so when it really warms up. Then I'll do the maintenance on it like that and flush the rad and all that. Just when it's a little warmer and it's not so, because I got no place to work, and in there there's no real room to work in there, even though it's a garage. So I'm going to do that a little bit in the next week or two, get all that stuff. But just do your regular maintenance stuff, but really pay extra attention to the road conditions. Wildlife on the road. Today I had a deer on the road with a truck and a trailer behind me. I had a partridge on the road up there just sunning himself. He wasn't even, you know, because they're out on the road because it's spring and it's the warmest place for them to be. So you're going to see a lot more deer on the road and other critters. Be mindful of that. So watch your speed. Just common sense stuff, guys. Just common sense. And again, your skill levels, ease back into it. Give your bike a couple of. I'd give your bike a couple of days before you trust it for a long trip, just in case something pops up. The other thing you can do, like right now, I'm not going to bother cleaning my bike until the yard dries out a bit because it'd be pointless, right? But yeah, maybe give your bike a good cleanup. Let your bike warm up a little bit more for the first startup than normal because that oil has been sitting in there all winter and stuff like that. So don't run it hard right away. Ease back into it. Again, your first run, if short runs, and here's the dilemma you have. Because you got to reclimatize to riding a bike. You don't forget how to do it, but you can kind of get a little bit rusty over the winter. So the first few rides, just be extra cautious. The big one is watch the roads, because again, that sand, that grit, it's like you're riding on bags of marbles. Somebody said that to me today. It's like, yeah, it was colder earlier, and I said, I wish I could get out today. I was like, oh yeah, it's like, but there's all kinds of grit and stuff over the road and everything like that. He goes, yeah, it's like riding on marbles, bags of marbles. I said, yeah, it's exactly like that. So when you're taking your corners, again, take your time. But if you have old fuel in there, when I park my bike, I do what you're supposed to do. I pretty much fill the tank right to the top. To the point where you can barely get any, because if you don't, your tank can rust. This bike sat in the summertime. It sat with a quarter tank in it, or less than a quarter tank in it when I parked it. Or I guess it was in November, and then I filled it up about a month later, and it was already starting to get little specks of rust in the tank just from being exposed. So keep your tank topped up as much as possible. When you're riding, it's not so bad, but when you park it, that's when all the bad stuff, the condensation and everything happens. So old fuel, remember you got old fuel in there, you might have to change some things out. But if it's, if it was within the year, yeah, maybe throw an octane booster in there for the first run, or a fuel injector cleaner maybe for the second run, or whatever, if you have fuel injector, even if you have carbs. But run the first fuel out. The best thing to do, I find, is basically, like I did today, basically, don't just go for 10 minutes, and I'll tell you why. Go for about half an hour to let the bike warm up really well, and then just, stay local, but just, even if you're on side streets or whatever, but if you can get out, just give it a little bit of a run. Nice and easy run. Ride it for about half an hour. You'll find that the fuel injection and everything kind of cleans itself out. It shakes the fuel around in the tank a bit, kind of stirring things up so it's not so kind of gummy and all that. So it takes a little while. The first tank, the bike always runs worst on the first tank, right? This bike, yeah, ran a little rough for the first 10 minutes or whatever. Not ran rough, but you can notice it wasn't running prestige, okay? And then after about half an hour, you start to notice that the bike's starting to really run good. So your next tank of fuel, run the old tank out. Best to run it right down, maybe not completely out, but down like 90%, and then put all new stuff on there, and then the bike's just going to run cherry for you, whether you're carbureted or whatever. But the main one is just watch the road condition, guys. So anyway, I'm going to leave it at that. I didn't mean to go on this long, but it is very important that you're very careful in the spring. Like I say, just getting out of my driveway is the only thing that was scarier than getting down the driveway was getting back up. Because on the way down, I just left the bike in neutral and just kind of go down that way. But coming back up, you have to come up under power, and you really don't want to spin out. So again, take your corners at a moderate speed. You know all that stuff, but it's sometimes just good for newer riders to get a reminder. All right, have yourselves a great day, eh?